Well, let's get the meeting called to order and we will discuss the survey and like here in a bit.
Okay.
So,
Stevenson,
Here.
Battles,
Here.
Weaver,
Here.
Ronnie,
Here.
Coons, not here.
yes,
And the record should show that Mahan is here,
Gloria is here as our council rep. I don't know if you've been
representing
putting
the city.
the council
Yes,
rep on.
I have.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Did everyone get a chance to review the minutes of our last meeting?
You said you didn't want to present them though for approval until we got a signature?
We could approve them tonight, but we would need Tom's signature still to
Okay.
make it official.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, and I thought I had printed that out and I didn't, so. Did you print out a copy?
I did.
So if you guys do feel comfortable approving the minutes, I can get a signature from Tom. Hopefully, if I see him before our next meeting, I'll get signatures.
I just took glanced at it. You'd emailed them, those are the ones you emailed
Yes,
out, right?
I emailed those to
Oh,
everybody.
yeah, I read it because I got my name was spelled.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry about that.
Two E's.
No, I called him Weaver instead of Weimer.
Weimer, Weaver, Wiener.
I don't know, sometimes you do things just kind of asleep.
Yeah.
And I know that's what happened. I was typing those names and I wasn't really even thinking about what I was typing.
Do you have a motion to approve the minutes?
So,
Second?
And second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. So, I know we have our discussion items here. Did you also, I know, Tom also wanted us to go over the Big Sky stuff, and we wanna go over the survey. So however you would like to address that. I think we should hit the survey first, since that's kind of at the top of everyone's mind, if everyone's okay with that.
Sure.
Tim, you
so
wanna take a roll?
everybody, yeah, had a chance to look at it, and I guess I've got it pulled up on my,
You have a copy, Colin,
my
Of what?
computer,
the survey? Would you-
so that I
I
can
didn't bring my, I'm sorry, I didn't bring my iPad.
make changes while I'm sitting here. So the front just says, welcome and thank you in advance for taking the time to complete this short survey. Our goal is to gather information from the community so we can better serve the needs of Red Lodge. The survey should take no longer than 5 minutes to complete. And that was a guess, but I can't imagine.
I love those when they put those in surveys because when they say it'll take 5 minutes, the first thought that occurs to you is I can do it in 3.
Yeah. Get competitive. Yeah. As Jeremy suggested putting that in, it's just like, yeah, and then you get past that front page. And so there is a click here on there for more information about the resort tax board, and it is a link to a page that James set up.
Okay.
And all the information that I have linked in other places is on there.
Okay.
What do you guys think of putting the, like when we plan to release the results, like would that be I feel like that might be nice to have on the welcome page too, even if we don't know it yet.
Yeah, I meant to put that on there. That was another one of your suggestions. I think the where and when, because you should have a timeline of when. We take it by this time.
I think you said something about as soon as possible or very soon or.
Yeah, I keep it open for like 2 weeks or so. I
Give it
think.
to, from the date I can put the date in 2 weeks, and we'll have, initial results within a week of that.
Okay.
Or just at the town hall would be a good place to.
Oh, and that might encourage,
Unveil, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, unveil the
Yeah.
answers kind of thing.
that might encourage people to come to the town
Sure.
hall too.
Yeah,
I just have one question. How are we going to get the survey out to people?
Red Lodge debate.
Facebook, Google.
Okay, so it'll just be a link out there on all these different places and they can just
Yeah,
click on it.
I think that we should be like, talk to the chamber, it should definitely go out in there, all their e-news. Buzz and debate and all the community oriented
Community Foundation can send
Yeah.
theirs.
to their list and, you know,
Isn't there an email list for the city too, the Gmail thing?
Yeah, the Google groups.
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
And-
And we need to remember that when they sent out that, police department survey, it was largely ignored, but it was like 17 pages long.
Mm.
It was
Yeah,
way
this is
too long, and people didn't want to have to answer. When you said earlier that shorter is better, that's certainly
This is
true.
really short and
Mhm.
sweet, and but it collects a lot of really good information, I think.
Mhm.
So, the way of communicating, and I think like even hard copies here at City Hall, hard copies at the chamber office, hard copies even at the foundation,
Mhm.
so that people who don't have or don't choose to have access to automatic
Right.
media could still get a copy of it. To me, the objective would be to get more people to respond as opposed to how they respond, just get them to respond.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, and that should be pretty easy. It's very, it's 10 questions, check a box. So.
Yeah.
We should get pretty good responses, I think. When we've done them for the Parks Board, we've gotten really good turnout on them.
And that's good, that's good information.
It is.
So I think survey will close 2 weeks from sending that's when we send it, and I'll put an actual date in there. And then results will be announced at Resort Tax Town Hall meeting.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Which we should try and get a date
Yeah,
pinpointed.
that was the other,
Yeah.
we absolutely need to.
Didn't we say mid-January?
We did.
As you're playing around with the survey thing, how easy is it to collate all the data and organize it, or you're not sure yet until it's
Yeah, it's, it'll all come down in the spreadsheet because we did this before.
Okay.
And then it's working that spreadsheet and sorting it in all the different ways because it's, that's where you'll have the overall. And, this is the way I see it anyway, you'll have the overall and then you'll pay attention to the one people that live inside the city.
Mhm.
And if there's big disparities, then,
You can kind of parse it out and do some graphs and stuff.
yeah.
What,
Once it's in a spreadsheet form, it's more than anything.
what kind of day of the week or day or night, or when do you wanna have the meeting, do you think?
I would think evening.
Yeah. Hopefully have a good turnout for it.
I mean, I get, my automatic default is like a Thursday night or something, but we could also do it, maybe like on a Sunday afternoon. That's what
Yeah,
the Beartooth Front Community Forum does, and they've done a couple on weeknights and they were not as well attended, and so they do most of theirs on Sundays.
Would you wanna do both?
I know, that's what I'm kind of wondering if I mean, we had a really good turnout when we had our lunch meeting.
Mhm.
Our best so far as our resort tax committee meetings go.
It's true.
So I'm not opposed to having one, during the day and then one at night, and maybe you'll pick up more people.
Uh-huh. I don't know, maybe that could be a survey question too. When,
Anything works best for you or. Sometimes I just worry about doing it on a Sunday if we have really good snow.
I think of
Like
myself,
everyone's
it's
up
just
there,
like, yeah,
up there skiing over
I'm
their
either having
weekend.
fun or if I go home, I'm not coming out again.
Yeah, that's how I am on
So
Sundays
maybe-
too. It's
So
not-
But if there's been good turnouts.
or Saturdays, they've done them primarily on weekends, they have had better attendance on weekends.
Do they do it in the evening?
No, they're usually from like, say, 10 to 2 or so. But this, I'm guessing, is gonna be shorter. So theirs tend to be a little longer. So theirs, if you do it at 5:30, you might be there till 8:39. That's a little tougher sell than if it's, say, 2 hours long. So that kind of, I think, plays a part too, how when we kind of come up with an agenda, if we're gonna do it on a weeknight, we probably need to keep it at 2 hours.
Definitely.
Or people come off the mountain by then.
I don't know when, do you know when the Chamber's, Citizen of the Year and all of that? That's usually in January. I just wanna make sure we're not going to be planning this that same night.
Yeah, I don't think it's a conflict anywhere.
Okay, it's just usually it's a Thursday night
It's a Thursday night.
in January.
Yeah, it's the third
Okay.
Thursday normally,
Okay,
and from 5:30 to 7.
okay,
So we avoid those times. We avoid Tuesdays, we avoid the Thursday, because Tuesdays are council and then there's another meeting on the opposite Tuesdays. But the chamber after hours is Thursday. Monday is never a good day, we all know that. So Wednesday is a good day.
So I usually have meetings at night on Wednesdays.
They're talking about it being, the Citizen being like a dinner thing this
Okay.
year, so it might be on a Friday or Saturday.
okay. I just don't wanna, I mean, I guess we can, ours can be pushed, but I just don't want to have this and then have, the local thing up at the resort and Citizen of the Year and, and then just, it really can
Yeah, and
impact us.
Citizen of the Year is gonna be in February.
Is it in February instead of
Yeah.
January?
Yeah,
Okay.
February this year.
Okay,
And,
well then that won't.
yeah, so, and the date for that is pretty much pinned down, but it hasn't been a confirmation. We wanna do it at the Bull and Bear upstairs perhaps and do kind of a capital thing.
Okay.
So, but, I'll find out and make sure everybody knows.
Okay.
If I send it to you, can you, okay?
Yeah, just
So if it's
looking at the
February,
calendar.
okay.
Yeah, so we'll be fine in January.
Okay.
It's just sometimes Thursday nights, I know they have a lot going on in town sometimes.
Mhm.
And you said you have meetings on Wednesday,
Yeah.
every Wednesday?
Definitely the 2nd and the 4th.
That's the 8th and the 22nd.
Okay.
So that leaves the 15th we could do.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there is a Parks Board meeting that night, but that's not a huge conflict.
Okay, so you said,
On
It's
the
not gonna be
15th?
here. Uh-huh.
Oh, the Parks Board meet, they don't meet here?
They do meet here.
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
What-
but we would be at Roosevelt, right? Isn't that the plan?
Yeah, we can do that.
and we could keep in mind too that, if we meet at 5:30, we could always meet on the Tuesday before a council meeting. I mean, the room would be available,
Uh-huh.
and then we would have information right there to pass along. I mean, if it was necessary to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if there would be, but yeah, that's something we
It's a
could do.
possibility, so, yeah.
Yeah,
That'd make a really long evening for people.
For somebody like you and me.
And me.
I know.
Yeah, but I mean, that is an option if it was necessary.
I would like it to be, I think I would like it to be its own meeting.
Yeah.
So that we can really,
I agree.
create an event on Facebook
Mhm.
and really get the word out there.
Mhm.
Put up flyers at the post office and, Fairkeep Market, wherever people actually stop and read. Get it out in the chamber chat,
Sure.
all of that type of stuff,
Mhm.
so. But I don't know if if the people from the Parks Board might wanna attend, so I kinda hate to have it the same night that they're having their Parks Board meeting,
Mhm.
so.
I kinda like the idea of a meeting, or the weekend meeting. That's just something.
Well, like I said, would you wanna consider doing two? A weeknight and a weekend day?
Certainly good.
Yeah, that would kinda cover the spectrum of
Mhm.
people that would be available one time or the other. I mean, if you had it during the day on a weekend and during the evening during the week.
Yeah, I don't know, we've had the discussion of having more than one if needed, and the second one would probably be a little more specific and detailed, rather than just kind of answering general questions, but, and the other option, well, I think we should just do it, is when we do have the first one, we can record it and get that on the website and get that out too, so if people don't attend, we can make it available.
Right. No, I was just thinking about getting more people, you know, if you did it on 2 different times,
Mhm.
same meeting, just
Right.
2 different parts of the day or week.
Yeah, with the presentation and the survey results, and then we're just planning on opening it up for, questions and feedback from the public and that type of stuff.
Yeah, we need to work on an agenda, obviously.
And we need to always keep in mind that everybody is really interested in what is going to take place here. And it's the resort tax in general, it's the additional 1% that we might want to pursue, and how that would be spent, like divided between infrastructure and a pool and all those things. I think that, the draw for people in general is pretty high
Yeah,
to know what's being proposed and what everybody's thinking.
Yeah, that, you know, when I read the survey, the 1% was the one kind of thing I was wondering if maybe we should have that on as a question. Or do we wanna pursue that kind of question later?
I think that's the way it was going, but I don't remember honestly discussing it. It seemed like it came up and we thought it wasn't the time.
Yeah,
well,
maybe-
if you did do it, you could just do one separate question that says, we have the ability to ask for an extra 1% for specific projects. What would you like that spent on? Or something like that. You know,
Yeah,
would you
that's where
vote
you're-
for it, and if so, what would you like it
And
spent
then
on?
you'd have to have those, you'd have a list of the capital
But,
improvements.
yeah, it would just be a specific projects, you know, would it be stormwater, would it be a new pool, would it be, you know,
Yeah, I mean, though I do
Soccer
have some
field.
concerns about being open-ended on the 1%, just because we're gonna be forced to do something about stormwater. And that's something that's really difficult to convey to the public, that this is something we're gonna have to do eventually. State DEQ is gonna make us do it. So I know my opinion, the mayor's opinion, Jim Bushnell's opinion is really that is what we should be spending at least a good chunk of that 1% on,
right?
because we know we're gonna have to do it, we know it's gonna be a lot of money. And personally, I worry, you know, that if we keep it open-ended and, you know, people vote for, you know, a project we don't necessarily have to do, then we're gonna have to come back for more money later for
Yeah,
stormwater.
or everybody votes for a pool and the city looks at the priority being stormwater and the city.
You know,
It's
and
like
now,
going against the city budget.
I mean, at least the bill, you know, the way the bill was finalized in the legislature, the SB 241 did give cities the option to do more one project at a time.
Right,
So I mean, I think doing both the pool and stormwater is on the table.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, I mean, it doesn't just have to be one or the other, it absolutely can be both, and it doesn't mean that you use, you know, if you just use a part of that 1% to go towards the pool, you know, and if down the road we're partnering with the high school, you know, you wouldn't need as much of it to pay that share of it.
I
Right.
think that the stuff we have on here right now, my personal opinion is we don't need to add the 1% to this
At this
particular
point.
survey.
Okay.
Cause it asks some questions that would go along with that.
Mhm.
And it would kind of foggy up the questions we have on there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can worry about that later.
Could you maybe consider not even presenting the 1% to the public?
Well,
I mean, it could always be like, would you or would you not vote for the extra 1%, knowing that we're gonna use this money for this project? You know, in other words, just make the decision, cause like you said, if you get an overwhelming amount of people that want to spend the 1% on whatever, that didn't include the stormwater or the pool, then what do you do?
Mhm.
So,
yeah, and it really is, I mean, the stormwater is,
Yeah, I mean, I think there'll be a ton of support for the pool. And people
I
want
think
Yeah,
pool.
there's no
They
problem
should.
there.
Yeah,
we'd be
That's
more apt
fun.
to get
Yeah,
it's
support
fun.
for the
It's
1% if we split it between a feel good and a
And
necessary.
That's
Right.
kind of what I think.
Right.
I'm afraid that people are
That's
gonna
why
say no.
I would
But-
push personally from, for the stormwater and pool.
mhm.
Right, and then it'll
And how
have,
it's divided up does not have to be put on the ballot, I don't
exactly.
think.
No, and in
No,
fact,
that
you could
can
do
change
one
every
project
year.
and then the other project.
Yes,
You
and
should
as
doesn't
long as
have your
people
budget
know
and
that's
say, we're
what,
gonna put
yes,
this much here this year,
yeah.
Right.
and, you know, and then, I mean, that could change every year,
Mhm.
when a budget.
I just worry that if you say we're gonna do 1% on stormwater and I just got $105 water and sewer bill, I'm like, well, where's that money going?
Mhm.
Yeah, so,
Not the stormwater.
no, it's not going to stormwater, but that's what people are gonna, you know, I'm already paying this much, now you need another 1%?
Mhm.
Well,
You know, that's how
Sure.
they look at it.
Sure.
I like the way West Yellowstone worded theirs,
I
and
do
that it had a lot of flexibility to it.
Mhm.
You know, it can be any of these. And the public education part of our particular project would be like, it needs to be stormwater, and it can be these things too.
Mhm.
Or-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't like to play politics, but the objective here is to get this 1% passed.
Right,
So
and
that
the
we
3%.
can use it for project-specific, things that need to be done. I'm supportive of the pool
Very much.
for many reasons. But I'm also supportive of the stormwater. I've watched when our, manhole covers blow up, and I remember when we had that big storm on the 4th of July, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, and there were swimming pools all on the east side of town. And however we can raise the funds to deal with these issues. But the pool is important. We need to get kids off their phones, off their electronics, and out doing things, out physically doing things. And I think that that's really important. And I think if we had a pool that could attract meets to come here, that adds to the resort tax, because people would stay overnight, they would eat out, and that would add to it. So it would almost pay for itself in the long run.
Right.
But I also believe that we do need to address the needs of the people. And to them, the stormwater thing is not a big deal. They don't even
Right.
understand the whole thing, but the pool is. And the pool is a benefit to them, their families, their kids, their visitors, and I think it's a real benefit to the community. We had a plunge here when I was a kid. We called it the plunge, it wasn't a pool. And it was where, Gessling's dental office finally wound up. And those of us who could not afford to go to pay the dime to get in there, sneaked in at night. That's how we learned how to swim. And I'm
The ones
telling
that
things
even
out of
live.
school, but I'm beyond the age of being faulted for that now. But we would sneak in there at night because it was so important and valuable to us. And I think, I wouldn't suggest that kids sneak in at night now, but, I just think that it's such a wonderful activity.
It is, and I mean, the KOA absolutely stepped up this last year, but they're 5 miles out of town. People
Mhm.
cannot ride their bikes out to the KOA.
Well, I don't think the pool will be a hard sell.
No.
Yeah.
So,
And I think we absolutely need to make that a priority, you know, as the city.
and we have that in the,
Yeah,
you know, in the list of things that they can.
yeah, and I guess we'll see how people answer that question. Absolutely, so.
So,
And I would even change the name from city pool to community pool, just because of the connotation of city. It's not just us, it's the community doing it. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too persnickety.
No, that
It's
makes
just
sense.
listed as pool on the survey, it just says
Yeah.
pool.
I'm not talking about this, I'm talking about, when we actually,
I did call it.
the community.
I called it city.
What do you think?
On the
Am I
community
looking at
pool.
old
I
time?
think you're looking at an old one again.
Old one.
Okay, so these are, I'm gonna go through some of the other things in case you guys haven't seen them. Tom wanted the name to be on a separate list or a separate page and take that, mandatory to have it on there. He just felt that some people might not take the survey if they had to put their name on it, and that, we could just look at the anonymous ones a little bit differently. I mean, if it's anonymous and full of negatives and
Yeah,
I don't know, I mean, you still have to count, but
Will it still, only allow one survey per computer?
It's, yeah,
It does the IP address,
yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah.
Well, I think we found out when we sent out the police survey too, that restriction doesn't always work.
But it's, it's not a vote, and I don't.
Well, you can certainly separate the data, and be like, does this change the shape of the answers really?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
it
don't
doesn't-
understand.
Just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I don't see it causing a problem.
I don't understand why somebody wouldn't take a simple survey like this. I mean, you're not
Mm-mm.
bearing your chest to
No, yeah,
anything, why wouldn't you wanna put your name on there?
yeah, anybody that takes it.
And
should be fine.
reading it, why would you value something that didn't have a name on it?
Right.
Yeah, I was fine with having it a required field, but
Yeah, I am too.
Okay, so more people for required than not?
Well, I don't think Jody or,
I don't, I mean, I think, like I said, I kind of agree, there's nothing on that survey that's,
Personal.
yeah, that would be, that you're putting yourself out there, I mean, it's just
Just
yes or no, yeah, I like this, no, I
Make it
don't like
required,
this.
and I've made up names to get past those fields.
Yeah,
You wanna do?
Yeah, I kind of wonder if there might be more negative responses if people don't have to put their name on it.
Yeah,
And that's not a good thing.
no, you don't need, you want honest opinions.
you
Yeah.
want constructive criticism,
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah,
anytime I've given constructive criticism, I mean, I'll put my name all over it, and I do get tired of reading comments on Facebook, on different, political websites and stuff like that, where it's a made-up account, and they
Yeah.
just get on there and they bash
Mm.
people,
yeah.
because they don't have to have any ownership of it,
Exactly.
so.
that's why I think names should be required, because,
I changed it back to required.
and if there's a question on there that they don't feel comfortable answering, don't answer it.
Yeah, and then the primary residence, I did, it was left as a required because it's, I think that's gonna be important information.
Absolutely,
Yeah, we
yeah,
want to know if they're able to vote.
Yeah, and,
and we
and
care
how,
about others'
how people that,
opinions, but.
yeah, how people outside of the town, outside of the state feel about it,
Mm-hmm.
because there will be people that take it up.
But recognizing that people outside of town have a huge impact
Mm-hmm.
on what happens in town,
Yeah,
so.
and that's another one, there, it's like, okay, I live, like, I am soon to live outside the city limits and own a business and property inside the city limits, and so, I realize that they can't vote, never vote, but it doesn't mean we're all part of this community, and so there has to be weight put on a Red Lodge business owner,
Mhm.
person collecting the tax.
Sure.
well, that's good. Sorry.
No, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say that's why it's valuable to sort of separate out that opinion field,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because we asked, do you own a business in town? Are you a resident of town?
Mhm.
Are you a resident of the state? Are you,
So then, number 5, so everybody, we're all clear up there. Number 5 is, do you believe the resort tax has had a positive impact on the community, and it's just a yes or no? How likely are you to vote yes on renewing the resort tax today? Very likely through very unlikely.
I think that's a good choice of how to phrase that question too.
Mm-hmm. Not a simple yes, no.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel that appropriate items are taxed? And this is where Colleen asked, we had a link to those items there. And this is discussion. I took it off, Tom, but it's easy enough to put back on. Tom felt that he would rather know what they think they know rather than downloading it, reading it, and then doing it. I mean, what's the consensus without going through homework?
I think that's a valid argument, and if they wanted it, they can find it from the home screen link.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Remember when this first started, the question of what would be taxed was the necessity should not be taxed and, non-necessity should be, but then it became, what's a necessity?
Mm-hmm.
Is a bed, Is it a mattress?
Mhm.
Is it a chair? Is it a fancier chair? Is
I
it,
know.
you know,
Yeah, it's not
$100
value.
sheets or $20 sheets? So that really opens up all those, that can of worms that, none of us even contemplated.
Right. A
To me, a
snow blower
necessity
was a
is
big
food,
one.
electricity, water, you know, those kind of
A
things.
snow blower in Florida would not be a necessity, but a snow blower in Red Lodge
It
is.
absolutely is.
I actually see a guy with his snowblower blowing the snow off his car.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
Oh my
plugs it into a long line and he blows the snow off his.
Oh,
Oh, blow.
oh,
A snowblower.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was like, oh.
Wow, what's his paint look
what
like?
kind of a car has he got?
I see what you mean, like a leaf blower
and
kind
I
of
say
thing.
that because to him, maybe that's a necessity,
Yeah,
because he doesn't have to, you know, anyhow.
And that's where, getting to answer not sure on that one.
Yeah,
well,
I-
biggest part of your answer, excuse me, is gonna be not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because who does know?
well, and I think that's good to put that in there, and then when we have our meeting, we absolutely can show people this is what's taxed right now.
Mhm.
When
You
we-
know, and we are not changing anything with this. This will stay the same.
Mhm.
You know, that will be up to the 5-year review committee
Mhm.
to address that.
Mhm.
You know, what's taxed and what's not taxed.
Yeah, I just feel like talking too much about what should be taxed is just
Right.
gonna distract from the main topic too
Right.
much.
And all, like I say, all we have to do is say, you know, have the handout, this is what's taxed, and we are not changing anything. We're not addressing any of that.
Mhm.
We're just addressing how it's being spent, where it was spent,
Mhm.
letting you know what it's done for our community.
Yeah,
And
there
if
how
people
much
are
more?
not sure, maybe we need to do a better job of educating them.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why I suggested that link be with the question of, the
Yeah.
link of the list.
Mhm.
Because if you have the question, you should have the link. Otherwise, let's don't have either one of them, the question or the link. I mean, if you don't wanna
Oh, I see
address
what you're saying.
what's being taxed, that's fine, I don't have a problem with that. But if you've got the
Just take the
question on
question all the
there,
way up.
yeah, if you've got the question at all,
Give
the information should be there for the people to be able to answer the question appropriately.
Mhm.
I can honestly go either way.
Yeah.
From that.
I do find Tom's argument compelling though, that it's good to know where you stand, like if people are confident or not.
If they, just what,
Yeah,
how
like,
much,
yeah.
like if we see a big spike on not sure, then we can, oh, okay, well, then we need to do better educating.
Right,
Or-
but we don't necessarily need to get into the
Right.
details of
Right.
Right.
should a snow blower be taxed,
Oh, no.
that kind of stuff.
But, yeah, is, not should, I suppose.
They're not taxed.
Right, for
So, or I guess it's like, I'm not gonna, I haven't been weighing in on it, but are we fine if it is, or do you want it?
Is the list of what's taxed on that home link with
Yeah,
all of our
that's what I
stuff?
was linked before, yeah.
To the ordinance?
Yeah,
With the list of, that you give to businesses that say you
I
need
mean,
to
it's
tax
all
these
linked off
items?
of your pages.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it goes to that link on the front page goes to the resort tax page that has.
on which you can find the list of
Yeah.
items.
But can you go back and look at that once you're in the survey?
Not easily.
That's a good
Or I
point.
could back browser it.
Mhm. Wouldn't be able to open up 2 surveys and.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you could do that too.
You don't wanna make it hard for people. Yeah,
It doesn't matter, then should we, yeah. It's like, yes or no, doesn't
The
matter.
only problem that I have with having it within the survey is sometimes people will go down that rabbit hole and they'll click on that and they'll forget they're taking the survey and they'll be like reading that and then
Well,
Not
that's the
finished.
same, that could be a 20-minute rabbit hole. And-
Going through that list, yeah.
Yeah.
I see that point, yeah.
And we did, with the Beartooth Front Community Forum, we did a kind of a game. They had a resort tax forum about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I
If
was
anybody
part of
was here,
that,
it was
because
at-
I was one of the old people.
It was at the Bridge Creek upstairs, and we had a list of different things, and I held them up and said, is it resort taxable? And then, so people would raise their hand if they thought yes, and that's something we could potentially do
Mhm.
too, just to kind of gauge, what do people know? And
Yeah.
people did pretty well with it, and we did a survey too, and we found that most people got most of it right. The one thing most people got wrong was sidewalks. The majority of people thought resort tax was being used on sidewalks, and it's not.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It
Well, there
is
have been a
not.
couple sidewalk projects,
Yeah,
over
yeah.
by, from IGA up to the post office, and
Yeah.
so there have been a couple, but that was CTAP money from gas tax.
I do like the idea of having some interactive type stuff in that.
It would definitely help engage people and,
And whatever that app was we talked about last time, I don't remember the name of it, but
yeah.
where you can get responses live
Yeah.
or whatever.
Oh,
And then put the
Kahoot.
answers the right, yeah.
What it was.
Kahoot, yeah.
Yeah, our, Robin, our sustainability coordinator has that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think she can only do like 20 responses at a time now. I think she's got 20 clickers.
Hmm.
But we could potentially use that.
That sounded interesting to me.
So this, it sounds like, I mean, leaving it in there as it is, it's almost like just like a quick, and then we can gauge what to do in the future with it.
Okay,
Are you comfortable?
I'm good with that.
So then 8 is where, this is, I hope I explained, we used to have a list of 20 items. Tom suggested doing a 1 to 5, and then we added a 0 as well, because it kind of, instead of just clicking it gives a little more
What's more important to
feeling,
you?
what's more important than the other, the
Mm.
0 to 5, with
Mm.
0 being inappropriate, not appropriate, that we don't want money going there, and 5 being that's the highest priority. This particular type of question in Constant Contact only allows 10 items in the list, so we had to do 2.
Oh,
Two lists.
okay.
But that's okay.
Yeah, and then,
I thought it kind of broke up in the, you didn't get lost in,
that
That
that's a
helps.
good point, yeah.
Aesthetically, yeah.
And then, this is, again, I'm just taking notes and Tom's talking. He's in Florida, for anyone who doesn't know that, so he's got too much time. And because he's in Florida, he calls me about 7 o'clock in the morning. So then we did it kind of by, what would be operating type expenses and what would be capital improvement type expenses. And then we listed them by alphabetically, so nobody thought that we were trying to wait,
Uh-huh.
because it's, you can wait.
Yeah, that's a
So-
good idea.
So there's a 1 through 5 for capital expenses and a 1 through 5
Yeah.
that's not capital expenses?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, here's what it looks like, James.
Okay, that looks good.
And this is, Tom's not here to protect himself, he wasn't sick, but it's like that, you wanted fire separate from police, instead of just emergency services, I can see being fire chief. You wanna know that direction.
Mhm.
So, do we need to, has everybody had a chance? I know, you're looking at it on your phone. I sent it around again. It's city buildings, community pool, parks, trails, construction and maintenance, property tax relief, stormwater improvements, streets and sidewalks, upgrade infrastructure to allow for city growth and development, water and sewer rate support, kind of qualifying that. That came up in a meeting, that is what it's about. We added the rates for that. Again, city services, and
Can we use resort tax to support water and sewer rates? Cause I was always kind of told that, I don't know who told me that, but.
well,
They
you
have.
can't,
Yeah,
the way
they
it's
have,
written
okay.
down. written
Well,
down.
essentially, because 250,000 resort tax is going to water and sewer, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is.
Factor
Okay,
in.
so, but it's not, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't go in there to it's stopping them from raising as much.
Right, well, and I thought that it had been that way for a long time, but then we had to raise our water, they made us raise our water and sewer rates so we qualified for grants.
Right,
So obviously they weren't taking into consideration that we were using the resort tax to help our water and sewer rates. They wouldn't let
No.
us do that. I
That's
guess
not-
that's what I
yeah,
was heard.
That's not how the target rate works. The
Right.
target rate is basically your median income of the city, divided by your water and sewer rates. And if your water sewer rates are below that target rate, you can't get state
And
grants.
so you absolutely cannot say, but we're using our resort tax
Right.
to
that's-
offset that.
yeah.
That's what I was,
Yeah.
that's where I was. So
No.
regardless, your rates are gonna go up if your median income goes up.
Right. Mhm.
At least to qualify for grants.
Yeah.
So then city services, and we qualified that with clerk, city hall clerk, so we also paying for city business, community services, food bank, library, recycle center, et cetera. And having that on there, we took off community grants, because it's basically the same thing.
Right.
Using more grants. And then changed business and economic development to economic development. And I added on the line, attract new businesses. Is that, sometimes I think that it kind of, that the word economic development kind of gets lost in what its real meaning is. And I've been, when we had an economic development group here, it seemed like the last thing on the agenda, and I was kind of surprised.
Attracting businesses.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that's, that's one of
Well,
those things that's
I know,
my
and
opinion, and
I was
so-
on.
I'm
Yeah,
one
but
person at
that's-
the
no, but
straight-
That's a good thing to
table,
put
so-
on there, yeah.
It
I would
Everybody
take
else.
off ETC there because they'll say, what else is?
What else? Yeah,
Yeah,
I was just
what
looking
else?
at the same
If
thing.
it's food bank, that blah, 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 yeah, then they'll say, what else,
Yeah.
just take it off. And if you leave it on, then it gives them an opportunity to add something that's their preference.
Yeah,
That's right.
Well, without it though, does that make it sound like it's only those three items
Yeah,
that
it's
are?
less-
Not necessarily, it's just,
could you say example,
Such as, community
Such as.
services such
yeah,
as.
let's say,
or put it, okay.
Or brackets
Do
EG
you-
cover. Yeah.
I know when I was on the EDC, we did get the SEDS, adopted by the city. Has that been upgraded, like already gone over it? Because it was supposed to be a living document at that time, and it was supposed to be gone over every 5 years and changed to meet the needs of the city, and that was, we had paid quite a bit of money to have that done back in the day, we had the Rain Road.
There is a
came in
newer
and-
one that.
There is a
yeah,
newer one,
yeah.
okay,
It's been, there's been two. I think one was like 2007.
yeah, that's the
Or
one I
so.
was involved in.
Yeah, and then another one about 2 or 3 years ago.
We had
What's that?
That was 12 years ago.
fire and EMS services, local event funding / grants, marketing to increase tax revenue. Should say resort tax. Police and protective services, snow plowing, equipment and drivers. Used to be 2 lines. Tourism, infrastructure, beautification, flags, flowers, fireworks, wayfinding.
Add on there, downtown speakers.
For tourism infrastructure.
Yes,
And what?
the downtown speakers.
Oh,
well, and see those speakers, and just a little bit of background for those of you who may not know, those were provided by the parade committee
Yes, they were.
all those years ago, and various individuals bought a speaker to recognize somebody. And that's how that came about. It was never a city, equipment, it was never rodeo, it was always the parade. And it was never the Chamber of Commerce.
No.
And when they wanted to put in the new, streetlights, they said that they had to take down the speakers that were on the buildings. And I pleaded with them to not take them down because it didn't belong to the chamber. It was 2 fellows from the chamber. And I said, that doesn't belong to the chamber, it doesn't belong to the city, it belongs to the parade committee, and you have no right to do that. So 3 weeks before the 4th of July, they took it down. needless to say, I was not happy.
Yeah, bad timing too.
And it was, and they wound up, the speakers and the wiring and everything wound up in, the yard over there at, the electric company, because they didn't know who they belonged to either, so they just piled them up. So they were damaged irreparably from then on. And so then Ron Wolf, for those of you who might remember Ron, know Ron, he gave the city $25,000, and Brian Rhodes said that it didn't belong to the city. So we'll have to give those to the parade committee, and that means to Lori Mayhem, because she's the head of the parade committee. So that money was transferred from the city, that $25,000 that Ron Wolf gave, over to the parade account at the credit union. And then that wasn't enough money to pay for the new speaker system. So Charlie Siddle gave money, as did, anyhow, people stepped up and donated money for the new speaker system, which was like $45,000 it came out to. That was supposed to last 10 years. It's been more than that now.
And more than that.
And, yeah.
They're starting to
and-
fail.
Yeah, and, failed big time. Now, we were told at the time initially that they would last for 10 years. But then they finally told us, oh, you have to take them down during the winter. I said, but we use them during the winter. Well, but the weather is, and I said, no, you're supposed to develop a system that would be weather resistant, you know. So now they are in bad shape, and now, all these years later, a good system that would work for weather conditions of any kind, and for a long period of time, about $90,000. I even went to the county at one point and said, would some of their emergency funding money that they got from the feds, would that be able to go for a speaker system that would allow them then to use it to do emergency announcements and everything? And the county said, oh no, we're not interested in doing that. So I'm just giving you background that's not necessarily goes beyond this table, but these are some of the things that have been pursued.
But regardless, we are in desperate need of, it would be good to put it on there.
Oh, yeah.
As part of our, I think it should be included in our tourism.
And
infrastructure.
Yes, you're probably right, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to get specific on.
No, but we
specific
just
on
put
that.
like some,
A few
you know,
examples.
Yeah, some
Yeah, but I
ideas
think
such
it-
as.
Yeah,
right.
and by the way, because Tom Agnes is going out of business, we have to move that system. And so, we met over there last Friday, and, Jim Bushnell is pursuing moving the equipment, the antenna and everything. And, I'm suggesting that we move it to the Pollard, because that's a central location. And Tom Kuntz is willing to pursue that, cause it needs to be someplace where it's permanent.
Tim, just for housekeeping purposes, if we're gonna take the et cetera out of community services, we probably should take it out of city services as well.
What examples do you have for tourism infrastructure?
Beautification, flags, flowers, fireworks, wayfinding, and some projects.
The one thing I would like to do is weed spraying,
Oh, yeah.
because like right now, we've got, when you come into town, each individual property owner is responsible for the weeds between the sidewalk and the highway. And for us to write a letter in July to tell them to do something about it, we have to give them a couple weeks. And if they don't respond, now it's August, and the weeds look bad.
So that would have to be its own item.
Could go into.
I think it could go in, or it could go into services.
Yeah, I mean,
City services.
I viewed it as tourism infrastructure because we're
Yeah,
trying to
that's
present a
Beautification.
beautification of downtown and your entrance. Cause we could probably for a few $100 pay somebody to just spray everything, you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it, so,
And save yourself the time and energy of writing letters.
yeah.
Absolutely.
The marketing.
No, but it's beautification.
I
And
know that it is.
absolutely, I mean, they're
Oh,
the
I'm
side
100%
streets,
in
if they
agreement.
just just even
How do you
downtown
like
on
the
Broadway,
beach?
there's people who don't do anything there,
Oh my
and
God,
it's like
yeah.
full of, I know dandelions are good for
Drive
bees
up-
and stuff, but you know.
Drive up 212 along Rock Creek, and the weeds
Oh,
growing
yeah,
out of the,
yeah.
out of the sidewalk.
Even the
It's just-
roundabout.
It's awful.
Now it starts to become offensive.
I actually sure got mad at me before 4th of July, I walked all the way around my mall.
And remember, the county has some responsibility.
Just couldn't take it anymore. Can't have these people there.
The county has some responsibility for weed control.
Yeah,
So
They do.
if it's added on there, then people are gonna wanna know the difference. What is the county responsible for? What is the city responsible for? And I know that there's a movement at the state level to say if communities, their word, don't control their weeds, that we would refuse to allow trucks and traffic to go through that community if they weren't taking care of their weeds.
yeah,
Which I thought was kind of a cool thing to do.
yeah.
And who knows?
They said that a
Last-
couple months ago.
So it's now beautification slash weed control, is that what?
Or just add it,
Just
In
add it
there.
separately?
yeah, just add it separately, because beautification is also the flower baskets, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
that's a,
That's not weeds.
it's not
Beautification,
Beautification is weeds.
Just-
such as weed spraying, flower
Flower
baskets,
baskets.
Yeah,
garbage cans.
beautification.
garbage cans.
That's how we funded the flower baskets in the first place, because part of our responsibility was beautification of the community. And we felt that the flower baskets were beautification
Right.
of the community.
It's on there just like that.
Yeah.
The last one that was on there was workforce housing. Do we want any qualifiers with that?
I think there should be qualifiers for everything, don't you? I mean,
Well, that's something we can really, you can really get into the weeds on, as far as what does that mean, you
Yeah.
know? I
Yeah, the
kinda
other
feel
weeds.
like, no,
Okay, just leave it.
yeah,
Okay, and
Because
then,
that could be anything from homeownership to rental to,
yeah, down payment assistance,
fence,
impact fee assistance, I mean, there's so many different
That
things.
branches into a whole other 20 minutes or.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Exactly.
yeah. Okay, so these are a couple of suggestions that Tom just made. Should the resort tax be used for large capital improvements? Which is the way it's set. And then should city operational expenses be allowed, such as
Instead of saying used for large capital improvements only, maybe should the resort tax be limited to, so that they understand its limitation?
Yeah, and I don't like the
Or
word
something like that.
large, because if it's either a capital expenditure or it's not.
Or, and then there's the question, do you understand what a capital project is?
Exactly.
It's any project, anything that lasts 10 years or longer, that's
Yeah.
$5,000 or more.
Should we put
That's
that
a
in
capital
brackets underneath?
improvement with
By state definition,
$5,000 in the last 10 years.
yeah.
Should we even have like a little asterisk or something?
Yeah, and let them know what it is.
Yeah.
It just.
I would,
Or
absolutely,
$5,000
yeah.
more,
You
but
just-
I think, oh, okay, so give you some idea at least.
Mhm.
so we're on question 10.
Okay, so I've got, should resort tax be limited to capital improvements? And then ask capital improvements. Projects. 5,000.
Is it an and or
And,
and?
it's projected to last at least 10 years.
So that's not 100%.
It is now, after we got the new auditors who said we can't do part
Okay.
maintenance with it, for example.
Yeah.
Like,
I just was thinking some of the stuff that they were using it on wasn't for 2 years. that could have been before.
And that could be, yeah, and the 10-year thing can be
Okay.
questionable sometimes, obviously.
Yeah.
Not everything's gonna last 10 years.
Okay, so.
But like, you know, like right now, we're in a position where we can't go to Moose Trails at Lions Park and do maintenance with resort tax money.
And
But
people
we
are gonna
could,
upset.
we could burn it and then spend
Build a new
50
one.
grand on a new one, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Capital improvements are projects costing $5,000 or more and projected to last at least 10 years.
Sounds good to me.
And then should city operational expenses be allowed, city operational expenses be allowed such as snow plowing and parking?
It's a good follow-up to the previous one.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to attend a public
I would
meeting
change
in January?
expenses to costs.
So you're just basically wanting to know, can you use the resort tax for the day-to-day maintenance costs or expenses of our capital improvements?
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I mean, it's almost like redundant because you're asking up above too, but it's simpler type of question. Yeah, we're into this. Be willing to attend a public meeting in mid-January.
I think it'd be nice-
That there's a meeting coming.
I think, hopefully we can have a date picked before this goes live with the survey,
And just put the date on there and the time?
yeah.
So when do we plan to go live? That could go on up tonight.
You wanted to go tonight, is that?
I
what you
did,
said?
I have you wanted to, it's like, let's do it.
Well, if the idea is to, basically present the findings at the public meeting, I don't think there's as much of a hurry to do it really, because otherwise we're just gonna sit on them for a month and a half.
I guess we could say it's done, and we're not gonna address it again, we'll decide in December, I'd be happy with that too,
Yeah.
except finishing things.
How about, what do you think about, by our next meeting, we set a date, and then we go live with the survey?
If we're gonna have it at the Roosevelt Center, we'll probably have to get with them and find out what days are available there too.
Yeah, for sure.
Be nice to have some time to massage the data a little bit, not
Yeah.
answers, but to
Definitely, yeah.
make some good visuals and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, to the point where there's, you can't have them looking at a spreadsheet. This is mean.
No, you need to make a nice little PowerPoint
Yeah.
presentation and have little interactive quizzes and
Mhm.
everything. We're definitely gonna have to do some planning for the
Yeah,
meeting.
that's, I'm.
But I'm very comfortable with the survey the way it is now.
And then we changed the last question a little bit. Do you have any suggestions for improving the resort tax or comments on the survey? I mean, is there anything else? I mean, I can't remember what your.
I changed my mind on that anyway.
Okay.
I had originally thought having a separate question just for, do you have any concerns about the current resort tax? But this captures that. If someone did, it would go in there.
Yeah,
So-
I think I could see that.
And
And this
I
is
don't
more
understand, have any suggestions for improving the resort tax? What does that mean?
That's what our goal is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Is to
improving
improve
it
it.
as in,
How money's spent.
How
it's
the money
spent.
is spent,
Yeah.
yeah.
We didn't want to like open up a big can of worms, but if someone, I guess,
Give people a place to vent if they feel like they need
see,
it.
the only way to improve the resort tax is bring more people here and spend money.
Well, this is,
Yeah,
it's not I don't think it's saying improve revenue is not how I
Yeah, no.
interpret
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
It's
but
like the
improving the resort tax, that we
implementation,
don't have
the
a
items
control
that
over
are
that.
taxed,
Because
the implementation.
we've definitely gotten some feedback, haven't we, from business owners saying, you know, that they didn't know what was actually taxed.
Mhm.
You know, where they get confused. Is
Then we
this
should
tax
say
versus
that, not improving the resort
Right,
taxes, we
so-
can't improve it.
So that would be, but their response to that would be educating the business owners on what is taxed. That would be what they
That
would
would
put,
be due to improve.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe
And
the
other
question-
ones are,
Maybe the question should read more like, how can Red Lodge improve how it uses resort tax or.
Or
Some
change
of
the
those
word
things.
suggestions to comments
Yeah, you know, because we also get,
and take
feedback,
out improving.
we've gotten feedback too on it not being enforced for everyone
Yeah.
equally, you know, where if a big business in town quits paying it, you'll absolutely notice it, but if a little business, you know, doesn't really, they kind of slide away and
Mhm.
that it's not enforced equally, I guess, you know, that we need, maybe, you know, do we need to use some of the money to help enforce it and audit and pay for those audits, pay for that manpower to audit, you know, to run some, you know, audits. It doesn't have to be everybody, but just pick
Mhm.
5 a year
Mhm.
or something like that.
Personally, I like suggestions for improving, because then it begs the question, well, what needs improving?
Mhm.
And that'll lead them to
Yeah.
put down their concerns, which is what we want. And the last question is kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, designed to be as open-ended as possible, like just any comments, really.
So that's why I suggested using the word comments.
Yeah, I
That's
think,
fine.
I think I understand where Gloria's coming from, that she read it as sounding like it could be interpreted to mean the resort tax as in state law, for example. where
Right,
Yeah,
We're not asking for suggestions on
Mhm.
that, but what can we do as Red Lodge?
Yeah.
or
right.
maybe just Red Lodge's implementation of the resort tax or something like that.
Yeah, that's,
That's good.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, sometimes can get tricky. You ask a question,
It's
we all
very-
know
yeah,
what we
yeah.
mean by the question, but.
Yeah, it's good to have someone outside, who hasn't been
Hasn't
privy
been
to our,
listening.
yeah, to what we're just saying.
And the limit of 350 characters is a good idea too.
Yeah.
If you
That
wanna
still
write a
seems like a
book,
lot.
please come to our meeting
Yeah.
and tell us what you feel. They're open. If you feel that strongly about it, please attend.
Mhm.
Okay, what I have right now is, do you have any suggestions for the city of Red Lodge?
To improve,
Implementation.
or to improve the implementation.
To improve the implementation. Everybody wanna see it? Yeah. It's like, one of the reasons I've been trying not to do, I'm trying to listen to other people is like my grammar can definitely be that way. Makes sense to me, but it might not make sense to anybody else. So what it says now is, do you have any suggestions for the city of Red Lodge to improve the implementation of the resort tax or comments on the survey?
It's pretty explanatory.
That sounds good to me.
Captures a lot of it.
Yep.
Okay.
Hopefully we get a lot of comments on that.
I got a feeling we're going to.
Yeah.
I hope
It's a
so.
pretty open-ended question.
There's a lot of people talking about it, I should say,
Yeah.
and it depends on where you're at.
And if you got 17 answers and one of them was good, it's still worth it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you have to take the criticism so you can improve it,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
that's one of those things, sometimes you get so buried in what we do. You know, you think about how somebody like on the outside might be thinking.
I'm just looking back over these again, and, the third question, do you own property within the city limits? What happens if, like me, I own my home,
Mhm.
period, that's all I own. Now, you covered the point in question 2, where is your primary residence? It's in Red Lodge city limits. Do you own property within the city limits? Yes, I own my house.
Right.
But that's not what we wanna know out of that question.
Well, you do, because if you own property, chances are you're going to look more at, like, yeah, property tax relief is kind of important to me. But if you rent, you probably don't care, you
Well,
know?
and then we can parse out answers according to
Right.
just
So
property
if-
owners.
Oh, and okay, and the
And
next
bus-
one is business
business
owners, so,
Yeah,
okay,
and business owners don't always own their property, you know, I'm renting, I
yeah,
don't own the
right.
building that I'm in, but I own a
And
business.
and it is, I mean, I think from a PR standpoint, it's, we have to listen to them.
Yeah.
I think they're all fine with it now, but when it was going on, they were told, I mean, it's what cleaned out the Chamber of Commerce. The business owners were told it didn't matter. You don't live in town, it doesn't matter to us what you think. We don't have a vote, we don't care.
Mhm.
And that was not a good move.
Mhm.
You know, you have to care what they think.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why we wanted to have, at least, have two people on the board potentially that don't live in the city, just
Yeah.
for that reason, to give them a voice. Obviously, Tom fits that. He's a
Yeah,
business owner
business
that,
owner that can't vote in,
Yeah.
yeah,
and
remember
he
those-
runs the fire and EMS,
yeah.
and he can't vote on any of that.
And those business owners who did not live in town and could not vote for or against the resort tax sued the city and took us to court, and we went through a whole big, very expensive thing.
We
The
saw
second
that
ballot.
in the
Yeah.
big huge
Yeah.
thing.
Recall election, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It was-
I think it's great, Tim. I think you've done a
Yeah.
yeoman's job.
You know, obviously, when they start coming in, we'll probably all scratch our heads and why didn't we think of this, but.
Mhm.
hey,
We can do
That's
next
what the
one.
next survey's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
yeah,
All right, well, what I'll do is the next step for this is to try and choose that date, and then we can fill out the date section of the thing.
Yeah, cause it would be helpful, I think, if we had the date of that public.
I
meeting out there.
agree with you.
Yeah,
Mid-January is a good,
right. Maybe, maybe not, yeah.
So, okay, I guess we can try to get with Roosevelt Center and find out what dates are available in January. And, we can also just make sure that we're not kind of try to check on community calendars and stuff and make sure there's not some big other thing going on
Mhm.
that night, or multiple things that night.
Yeah, I think our next meeting here, we should probably really look at an agenda for it too, figuring
Yeah.
that out.
Okay.
Do we wanna have a guest speaker? You know, things like that, who's gonna speak,
Right.
you know? Need to
and the,
start
the
hammering that
Citizen
out.
of the Year event is in February, so there's no
Okay.
conflict there, January. I just don't know the exact date in February, but I know it's in February, but I'll confirm that and I'll make sure that everybody knows.
Sherry says date
And I'm gonna
not
take this
set,
right off.
date not set yet.
So, the other thing Tom had wanted us to look at was, the resort tax, and, you know, their little logo, that everything that they had out there. I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at that from his email. You know, the resort tax building Big Sky since 1992. And, you know, he can probably talk to this more at our next meeting, because this is kind of more in drawing up our, you know, how we do it. But I did notice in here that they do absolutely put right in here, you know, how many audits they're gonna do a year,
Mhm,
you know, and on the enforcement of it, you know, that's all addressed in the same thing. You know, and of course, everything is listed here that's taxed, you know, what the rate is. So I guess, you know, if you guys wanna review that, and maybe we can all kind of go over this next time and use this maybe as, take what we like out of it for ours.
Yeah. And Big Sky's a great example, they're really on top of stuff with resort tax, and they're fortunate in that they're a district. So they have a permanent board that meets every month, and so it's really easy for them to do outreach and have really good documents and lobbying. They were really big, it was Big Sky and West Yellowstone, basically, that got us the opportunity for the extra 1%.
That's nice.
Yeah, I remember they've been going for that for at least the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. I think this was the third or the fourth, yeah, legislative session.
So do we want to, when are we planning on getting this type of stuff together? Will that be after our meeting? We'll bring back our feedback from our public meeting?
Like something like this, you mean?
Yeah, for the ballot.
I'd have to look, for the ballot, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and our, I mean, obviously, we're not gonna change what's taxed,
Mhm.
but if we wanna put in, you know, add some stuff to it, like,
Mhm.
you know, having part of the resort tax fee to pay for audits and enforcement, to, you know, help pay for the city employee to actually, you know, do the education and outreach with the businesses,
Mhm.
you know, to,
Yeah, I think after the meeting. we'll have it,
after the
right?
meeting, we'll just
Yeah.
kinda hit all that hard.
And that was one of the things that kept coming up at that, as far as what was taxed at that RLBE meeting. Frank said that this is so much their employees as the people walking in. Like
Yeah,
they automatically assume that a snow blower is gonna be taxed, so they buy it as well, so they're going to 33%.
Mhm.
And that, I mean, that was his comment.
Mhm.
So,
So, yeah,
and education on our part,
so I guess, you know, to
or,
go,
we have to have educational materials somehow for the site.
I know, and so I guess, you know, that goes kind of into our priorities for future meetings, is getting all of that together.
Mhm.
Yeah, listing those things. I think we have it on our initial list.
It's in the ordinance.
Education.
So this would become a document then that we would, as a body, prepare to present to the council when we're done.
Right, something similar to this, I guess,
Yeah, there's the ordinances in there.
yeah, and it has like a frequently asked questions in there, it has, you know, it all becomes part of the city website where people could just go out there and look at that document too. But basically, it's the governing document for the resort tax, and any changes that, I mean, I know we probably have one now, but it's just the ordinance. And I don't know that, it's not nearly as in-depth, I guess, as this one.
Mhm.
That would be much more informative.
Right. So I think, you know, probably even, not even next meeting, because we're really need to I think our next meeting, we absolutely need to focus on our public meeting,
Mhm.
getting the agenda and stuff like that for that, but after we get our feedback, then we need to start preparing what works for Red Lodge
Mhm.
moving forward.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So do we need to go over, on the agenda, we have review of past resort tax expenditures, did anybody have anything in particular they wanted to go over there? Good stuff that's on there.
No, I mean, I kept that on there just because we hadn't really talked about it much at the last meeting, so I just left it on the agenda.
I think once we start putting together our town meeting presentation, that would be important.
Yeah.
You know, to highlight some things.
Right, and how much money the resort tax is raised in relationship to property taxes, and then we really talked about a lot of that. That'll definitely need to be in our public meeting, so people understand how important the resort tax is.
Now, who's gonna go to Roosevelt and talk about scheduling to them?
I can do that. I'm emailing Tracy about something else right now, so I can ask her.
Okay. I think we kind of already talked about the priorities for the future meetings. Are there any petitions and communications from the audience? Okay.
I've enjoyed the conversation.
Okay, all
Thanks,
right.
go ahead.
Is there any other business you would like to talk about?
Oh, our next meeting
Yes.
I have
is,
it down as December 4th, is that still true?
I think I put that in here. didn't I?
Yeah, that was all we had.
Yeah, Wednesday, December 4th at 5:30.
So we had basically decided we're gonna meet the first Wednesday of the month, every month, although,
Wednesday, December 4th at 5:30.
Correct.
although January is, I think the first, yeah, January 1st is a Wednesday, so that one won't work,
Yeah, that's a holiday.
yeah. But do we wanna
And
meet,
is that gonna be here, Colleen?
Yes,
do we wanna meet before December 4th?
Yeah, we kind of left that open. We
Mhm.
wanted to have a meeting later, like do the lunch meeting again.
Right.
You know, I think, I mean, if the direction we're headed, if that was the one we could start the agenda, if we had a date.
I think we need to really focus on the public meeting
And then
on
we could
it.
start an agenda, because then, I mean, even if it was a short meeting, we could leave that with assignments.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it'd be a good idea, yeah.
And that might also be, that, yeah, I mean, if 2 weeks, you know, if we, sometime, at that one, say that we're done, that's it, we're sending out the survey, then it's out for 2 to 3 weeks. 2 weeks tops, 'cause it's like, I lose stuff.
However much time you give them,
Right.
they'll say.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, and if you give them too much, then it's forgotten.
Yeah.
And then that, you know, I mean, a good amount of time to really look at the information, I think is
That's gonna be the
kind
time,
of important,
yeah, look at all the stuff, compile it.
yeah.
digest it, figure it out what they really are saying. That'll be a toughie.
Yeah, and it takes more than one person.
I know.
It's-
I guess I would
My
really.
filter is always heads one direction.
The only reason why I think we should meet again, and we may be able to just do this via email, is to solidify the date for January. So we can get that on the survey and get the survey out before December 1st.
Mhm.
I would like to,
Okay,
so.
yeah, that could be, I mean, we don't have to set.
Yeah, we can do that by email.
Yeah.
If that's not against any,
Yeah, just try to be careful on the emails,
that's
you
why.
know, as far as like any decisions that get made should not be done via email.
Okay.
And, trying to, changing questions or, that on the survey a little bit, that's, kind of borderline, but that's about as far as the board should go
Right,
in terms
we
of
didn't,
email.
it was, the survey still hasn't even been approved, so, it was changing things.
So shall
Development
we,
stage, not approval.
what would be a good day, towards the end of November? To have a quick meeting to approve, give the final approval for the survey and the final approval for the day of the meeting. And then on December 4th meeting, we can absolutely come up with our agenda for the meeting and, it only has to be like a half-hour meeting or a 15-minute, something like that, we all just,
If you, James, it's, to your point about, be careful about the emails, if you emailed all of us and said, this date has been decided after you talked to Roosevelt,
Yeah, that'd be fine.
that would be fine.
then we could, that would be okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
And if any one of us had a problem with it,
you can say that.
we can
Do-
say that
do-
and then quit the discussion at that point.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
then it becomes a decision making.
Where you wanna kind of be careful is if it's, if you're discussing anything on email where, say the board is deciding that we wanna go this direction or that direction, or we have these opinions, those all need to be done publicly here, so that's where you kind of need to be careful.
But if we're just discussing dates, that's
Yeah,
okay.
Do
that's
we need
logistics, that's
To
fine.
approve the survey then at all, or can we do that now, or do you think that people wanna,
Do that.
then that way it's done and we don't have to meet? And you can just say, yeah, January 15th is available, or this date's available, we're gonna have this day.
Mhm. Yeah,
Or
we can do that.
subject to the date addition.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much already agreed that the survey is
Good.
Are you good
good
with
the
that?
way it
Tom?
is.
Can I get a motion?
I make a motion, I move that we accept, the current iteration of the survey, based on the correction for the date.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So then all we have is the date.
Okay,
And
I will try and find out tomorrow.
I think we're
what's
all in
available.
agreement, the middle of January sometime,
Mhm.
barring any major events in town that would. Find
And
out.
I didn't really hear a preference on weeknight versus weekend.
Saturdays are bad for me because that's when I have my market every Saturday, so.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people do a lot of things with families and stuff on Saturdays, they go skiing, Sunday's kind of more just relax, and they might actually go out and do this after,
The evening sounds good to me.
yeah,
Sunday, I'm sorry,
Sunday evening.
like a 5 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, something like that.
would
Not
we
too
get
late,
Tim
but-
out of the house?
Yeah.
Well, if we wanted like almost like a pre-meeting here, to be like, if you have any, I don't know. We mentioned multiple meetings. I don't know if we wanna have two identical ones, or if we'd rather have like a smaller one on a Tuesday after the city council or something.
How do you gauge the size of the meeting though, if you're inviting the public?
I don't know.
Mhm.
It's a good question.
And do you offer food? Because if you offer food, they'll come.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's something that I think with the agenda, we'll have to kind of figure out, because if it's gonna be more than 2 hours, we probably do want some sort of snack at least.
Food and shots, because with shots you can get a lot of public participation.
Okay.
Are
And if you're
these
gonna-
taxable?
Yes,
I know, right?
And if you're gonna provide food, is it gonna come out of the resort tax?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That means we have to redo the survey all over
A lot of
again.
IOUs.
I know.
Is food for resort tax meetings legitimate
Can we
speculation?
adjourn the meeting? Is everyone okay? with adjourning the meeting?
Let's adjourn.
Okay.